So the title of this video is Africa Catch-22, Out with the French, In with the Chinese. So Africa's been put into a Catch-22, and the first one, let's just recap on the first Catch-22 for African tribal chiefs back in the slave trade. The white slave traders were around the coast of Africa, and they sold guns in return for slaves. The local chiefs, they went into the interior and they captured slaves with using the guns, and then they sold the slaves and they were paid in guns. Now, if they didn't catch any slaves, they couldn't buy any guns, then the neighboring tribes would come and capture them, and they would become a slave. So the African chiefs had no choice but to go to the interior and capture slaves to sell them to buy guns, so that they didn't become slaves themselves. So it's a kind of catch-22. What could they do? They had no choice. And it's exactly the same now with the African countries at the moment. There's some African countries moving towards independence, the Sahel countries. Now, to get independence, they need to nationalize all the mines, all the oil, all the mineral resources to come under the government. And if they do this, if they nationalize the like Burkina Faso, if they nationalize the gold, then there will be a war. They will be assassinated. They won't survive. The imperial powers will eliminate them. And example of this is most famous example of this is when Iran nationalized its oil back in 1950, and then the UK they start planning for a coup d'etat, and then the Iranians find out the British are planning a coup d'etat, and they expel the British, but the Americans went ahead and did the Operation Ajax, and they overthrew the democratically elected Iranian government, and all the problem we have now with Iran being an enemy comes from when Iran nationalized its oil. So the African leaders now are in the same catch-22. If they don't sell their resources, the imperial forces, doesn't matter which one, French, Chinese, Russians, whatever, if they don't sell their resources, they will be attacked. They will be attacked by neighboring countries who will be acting indirectly or directly for their imperial masters. So the question is, what is the future? How do they break this? How do they break the cycle of the catch-22 that they're caught in? And I go back into history, although its circumstances are very different, but just to make a point, that the Romans colonized Britain 2,000 years ago. I won't get into the years, but they left, and not straight away after a few hundred years, but they did leave. And the Romans left Britain not because the British kicked them out, but because the Germanic tribes were attacking Rome, and they needed all their soldiers to protect Rome. So at this point, they withdrew. The Roman soldiers were withdrawing from the Roman Empire back to look after the to look after Rome. And so jumping forward to today, it looks like the Africans are trapped. However, if the petrodollar collapses, then there is a window of opportunity when the African countries can actually get real independence. So even though they are looking at the Burkina Faso and looking at they start their own oil refinery. So wow, this is really great. Because the imperial system is take the resources from the country, bring it home, make it into the finished product, sell it back again, and used for perfection by the British buying cotton in India, bringing it all the way back to England, to Manchester, back in the old days when there was big old ships or gallons, making the finished clothes and then shipping it back, selling it in India. So this is the system used in Africa today, South America, Central America, other places. Take the resources out, make the finished product, sell it back. So an example of this is in the Congo with the cobalt, and the cobalt, the Chinese own the cobalt mines in the Congo. So the cobalt goes to China. Now then, Eric Musk is starting a electric battery factory in, I think it's Shanghai, and so then African cobalt goes to Shanghai. It will be made into batteries and sold to American. It will be in American cars and all around the world. So anyway, this is how the exploitation works. And Eric Musk, he's basically not much different to King Leopold III in the Congo. There was parallels. They're exploiting the Congo, taking the cobalt before King Leopold took the rubber, which was used in the cars, and transformed the motor industry with the rubber cars, rubber wheels. But now the Congo is transforming the world with electric cars, and Eric Musk is the king of electric cars, and the Congo is still being exploited for this time for cobalt. So now, just going on to at least in Burkina Faso, they have a new gold refinery. But I was looking at the who owns it. It should be the Burkina Faso government. It should be national. They should be owning it. But it says private. I look on the internet. It says privately owned. And then I see a YouTube video, and the president is walking around the new refinery, and there's some people, and there's some Chinese in suits. So of course the Chinese are coming in, and in Zambia the Chinese own the copper mines. So will Africa be better off under the Chinese, being a Chinese colony instead of a French colony? And there's no difference. There's absolutely zero difference. The wages of the miners in the copper mines in Zambia under the British are not much different to the wages now under the Chinese, and that's 60, 70 years moving forward. No progress. So there is still some scope for real independence of the African countries, and they can still nationalize their industries but they have to be very careful and do it. They have to pick the right time. So I was saying about the Romans. They came back. They came back from Britain when they were being attacked. So when the petrodollar collapses, this is the opportunity for Africa to get independence. So they should plan for this time. They should plan to nationalize everything as soon as the Wall Street crashes, and whether the petrodollar will crash or not. It's most people. It don't look good for the petrodollar. If you another video, you need to. There are other videos out there. The Middle East, when the wars get going in the Middle East, Iran can collapse the oil export from the Middle East, and this basically means the end of the American empire. And the Chinese empire, the Chinese, they bought the empire. They didn't use guns. They go into Africa with money. They buy mines. They buy this and that, and they build parliaments. The US have so many army bases around the world. They bomb the world to get keeping their empire. The UK divide and rule. So now the African countries, they need to unite and collectively set a date to nationalize all their industries, because if what the system is, one African country rebels against the imperial leaders, and all the imperialists gang up and destroy that country. And then 2 or 3 years later, another country rebels, and then another one, and they pick them off one at a time. But if they all unite with the social media, they all unite at this time, and they pick the time when the petrodollar collapses. At this time, they can do it, but they cannot unite. The governments cannot unite. The African governments cannot unite, as is mentioned by the Niger new leader. The African leaders, except for these new ones, are all in the pockets of the imperialists. So the change in Africa will not come from the African governments, the puppet governments. So anyway, I just wanted to say a quick thing. Not much time to spend a lot of time on this video, but the main thing is that African independence will come when the petrodollar collapses. That's what I'm saying. Okay, thanks. That's all for now. Bye.